Hey guys, welcome back. This is our second session. Today's session is what is the metaverse and how will it change digital and social connections? Today, joining me is Calvin Young. And Calvin, thank you so much for joining us for this second session. During this second session, we want to explore the metaverse and what effects it will have on social media. The metaverse is a virtually open that combines digital and physical realities for enjoyment and education for users. And a lot of questions around NFTs. And I think that's a conversation we can get into because I don't think a lot of people understand how that relates in social media in its current dominant method for communicating among the internet users. But the metaverse will force people to rethink their methods of engaging in the experience for users, and the metaverse will bring them together as consumers and interact collaboratively and socially. So even this moment right now, I think years ago we could not be doing this, Calvin, where you're in one state and I'm in the other.
That is phenomenal. Yes.
I know I love this, how we can just reach across the world and just have these conversations. So, from your experience with the metaverse in the area that you're in, and if you could just give us a brief overview of who you are and what space you're in.
First of all, I'm very, very excited to be here. Thanks a lot for allowing me to present and speak this moment in time. My name is Calvin Young. I'm a director with the Illinois Army and Air Force National Guard, where we fight for benefits for our active and retired folks here in Illinois. And what I'm doing in the metaverse space specifically, we realize that we've got a problem with our transitioning veterans. One being the stressors that they have. There's a known fact that there's about 22 soldiers, airmen, and veterans that commit suicide a day. So I partnered with a well-known organization called Galaxy Gaming, and they're heavily in the virtual reality space. And we are creating a virtual reality world that will allow our veterans to be able to interact with a social care worker that can help them deal with their stressors. It's kind of like a virtual reality 911 for anyone that is dealing with any stress. And this will, with our methodologies and with our virtual reality space, they will be able to interact with a healthcare worker on the spot, something that's not in place right now. So if you imagine a veteran with PTSD and it's 2 o'clock in the morning, they may not have someone to talk to. So we envision that this virtual reality space will be able to change how we deal with PTSD as we deal with it today.
I am really excited to hear that. Just if you're just joining us today, my name is Christine Burkett. I'm the CEO of PICF Inc., which is an IT consulting firm located in Detroit, Michigan. And we do a lot of work in this space between app and web development. And we're also working on a lot of projects with the vets through our project called The Cave. So I'm really excited to have this conversation with you, Calvin. So now that I've given a brief overview of who I am, we can just get right down to the conversation. When it comes to PTSD, Calvin, what are some of the things that, like you said, it happens at 2 a.m.? It's not a 9 to 5 situation, and they need that type of support. So, what do you guys currently have in place, and where would you like to see it go within the metaverse? Calvin, I think you're on mute.
I'm glad you told me because I would have talked my ear off. So how we deal with it now, we have a 1-800 suicide hotline, right? And it is very old school, and a lot of soldiers and airmen may not feel comfortable dialing the 1-800 number. However, we feel that with this interactive and immersive technology, it will make the experience seem very seamless, and it would allow the veteran to really open up and seem like someone is in the room with you. So for the folks that have experienced what virtual reality is, that immersive experience, we believe, will be a game changer on how we deal with everything there is. And in fact, we believe that every industry is going to touch virtual reality.
I am really excited to hear that with the team. And then, again, I said I'm from Detroit, Michigan. With the team that I'm working with, we're actually in collaboration with the vet hospital there. where the veterans will have two options. They can either put on VR glasses and immerse themselves, or they can go to the cave. And what the cave allows them to do is they sit in this room and it becomes three dimensional. And it's a three-dimensional experience of being in the metaverse that your body is immersed into the entire environment. And it's really exciting because when it comes to PTSD, there are different triggers. And so right now we're working on the algorithm to kind of create those different triggers to help ease and relax them back into what we call normal society. And I'll be totally honest with you, I don't think that there is no a norm society. So I think it's just bringing them back to their normal and helping them to adapt. And so one of the things that I'm really excited about is to be able to sit down and with the focus group with the group of vets to kind of talk through what those concerns are. And again, me, I process things in numbers. So while they're talking, I'm thinking on the back end, what will it take for us to recreate that environment and make it as real as possible? So when you talk to some of the vets who are going through PTSD, I think there's a disassociation from family, and definitely chime in and correct me. And then there's a disassociation from life. And then there's a mental disassociation from the reality that they experienced when they were on the front line versus their reality at home. And sometimes it's a little hard for them to reconnect.
You are spot on, Christine. And I think there's some partnership. I'm surprised we haven't talked much sooner, but you're spot on that those stressors are very different for everyone. You know, for someone on the front lines that have really experienced some really tragic tragedy, how they deal and manage stress is very different.
Mhm.
And so, having this case study that you're talking about is going to be imperative that we do that because of the spectrum of needs for our veterans are very broad based.
There, so and thank you for that. One of the things we did find is that some of the military men who returned back home with missing limbs, which was a big thing, it's that their disassociation from who they were and who they are now. And there is a huge difference. So what we've tried to do is in speaking with them to find out what were the things that you feel that you can no longer participate in. Because as we grow within this new world, we can create a metaverse where you can do those things and you can relink. And I think that one of the biggest stories that I heard was from one of the guys in the military who was married. And he just said, I just miss taking my wife thing. That seems very minor and minute, but to him, the loss of his legs prevented him from doing that. And although he had, as he says, I have these two extra things. He used to call them two extra things. I used to say to him, "Are you kidding me?" He says, "No, they don't do every." He says, "I was really a cool dancer. I could moonwalk." I love that. But the thing that really kind of shocked and amazed me was that that's all he really wanted to do. He was really focused on his wife and being able to interact with her in a different way. So the VR and all of those different things would allow them to do that. And so for you, providing some of the military with some of those experiences they had prior to going over, understanding they're coming back differently.
Absolutely. And to add to that, Christian, is that as you know, our veterans, it's a different culture and the lifestyle is different. And we want to provide a space that they felt when they're with their comrades. And so imagine there's a room or base where other veterans from across the US can get together, share thoughts, share ideas, and relive some of those memories. So that's kind of the place, the environment that we're trying to create for our veterans.
For me, just to be able to, like you said, if a lot of times, and other thing I think the missing link, and I call myself like the norm, we don't understand these guys come from all over the country. And now this person who's been your best friend for 5 years is now in Colorado and you're sitting in Washington, D.C. You're missing this guy. So it's great when you can put on the VR glasses, you can jump in there and you guys can just really honestly, this one guy says, I just want to hang out and have beers and watch the football game. was just like, that's all you want to do? And he was just like, yeah, I miss that. So even in that space, it would be great if they can actually watch a live game together, but be together in the same space. Because I don't think that people understand human element a lot, because it's hard for you to come home and then you're with someone who you didn't spend that a lot of time with, and they don't understand the headspace you're in, you know. So I think that's great. What do you think about being able to create that? I do a case study with you guys over there to see how that pans out and helps them readjust returning home, but still having that connection.
Yes, and the other piece of this equation that we haven't talked about yet, which is very very key and critical, is how it affects the community, and I mean by the families that they're trying to reintegrate with.
Yeah.
And like you said, a soldier can be in the Middle East and they want to connect with a family member, their child back home.
Yeah.
So imagine you're able to put your headset on, and now you're in your living room again. Now you can calm down, and your
Yes.
morale is much better. So um, this technology is going to touch a lot of great things in a lot of positive ways. That's why I'm very excited about this.
I think you were leading right into my next thing, is that it's not just for the guys who return home, but it's the ones who are actually over and serving. Because a really good friend of mine, that was his biggest thing. His wife had passed away. He was, you know, a single dad, and he just wanted to hang out with his daughter. But, you know, there was always some gaps in that. And like he said, we can do a video call, but that's not the same, you know. So it was just trying to figure out how to make those connections where the military could really use this as a form of mental health and support for the soldiers, to be able to reacclimate them. And one of the guys said to me, he says, I don't want to be naughty, but sometimes I just want to be with my wife one on one. And when he said that, all the guys just kind of laughed and they were like, exactly.
Speak for
I was
yourself.
I said, you're not being naughty. That this is a part of the conversation. And these are things that we need to know, because when we support our men and women who are overseas and are serving and are doing work all throughout the United States and overseas, we need to understand that they still need a lot more support than what we're extending to them. But you know, the flip side to that too is that being able to train them to reacclimate them back into society. So one of the things that I asked him was, okay, how do we translate your leadership skills here into an employable tool or resource? And so the one guy said, well, I'm managing these troop of men. Doesn't that translate? I said, yes, it does. But where? Like in what industry? So it's actually given them an opportunity when they know that they've got notification, they're going to be returning home. They have about 6 months to prepare for that, because it doesn't happen like you find out one week and the next week you're on a plane coming back home. That they will be able to put themselves in different industries to kind of see where they're best fit, because of course everyone wants to employ a lot of the military, but sometimes our military are not given the best opportunities. So that's another concern. They all say we're hiring, but exactly, one of my really good friends, he works, I'm not going to shout out the company, everybody uses them, but his management skills, they put him at an entry level position, and he has served almost 20 years
Yeah.
commanding people, but they didn't translate that into employable hours. So for you, what does that look like on your end, if it was able to kind of retrain people to get them prepared for a norm?
Well, this technology, we haven't scratched the surface of what we're going to do. When it talk anything that a transitioning veteran is concerned about, we'll have job placement there, right? So imagine you join my world, and you can go over to a building and they'll help you find a job. You need
Mhm.
insurance. You need everything that a transitioning veteran need. You need health care. You need medical. Everything is going to be there. Provide those tools. And what really brought this to the front of things during COVID, where it was very, very tough for a veteran to seek resources, right? It was very hard. Imagine our civilian folks had a tough time. Our veterans had it multifold, just getting the resources they need. So you go into use our tool, and you'll be able to take care of anything that you think about inside a virtual reality world. It makes it very seamless and very easy for you to tap into some of those resources.
I think that's excellent. I look forward to that transitioning happening because there's a lot of them that are disabled. They need to get places, they need to get things. And it would be great if they can just walk into any office right from home and take care of that. So, the next thing that's going to come, though, which is really big, is being able to submit those documents online and have them received. Because I know a couple of things that you guys actually submit as far as documents have to be the original in the original form with the stamp on it. You probably say, how does she know so much about this?
You know a lot about our
I do.
benefits.
I do.
Yeah,
And so it is being able to still be able to work within that environment, but still look at some other things. So just to let you know, you don't know we have a studio audience over here, and they have
that's
some
awesome.
questions for us. So studio
Great.
audience, what is one of your questions?
Well, first of all, this is so exciting to hear all of the vet benefits that are being developed. My daughter is currently deployed overseas, and one of the things that I think leads itself really well into this is that in their free time, they game. That's like their main outlet. And so some of their skill sets that they're developing, I think, would lend themselves to this. So it's so exciting. But my question is, what keeps you up at night? Like, what's the part that's intimidating or a little cautionary? And then what are you most excited about? I mean, it sounds like some of these benefits are pretty exciting, but if there's something you haven't touched on, I'd love to hear that.
Calvin, I'll start with you.
Okay, there's two things that keep me up at night. The fact that we lose 22 veterans a day. 22 veterans are lost due to suicide and lack of mental health care that we have in the US. That keeps me up every single day. And I think these tools are going to be very beneficial to that. In fact, there was a new uh, statewide law that was enacted last Tuesday for our veterans. Christian, you may already know about this, so I'll say it anyway, that any veteran that is experiencing any kind of mental health breakdown, they can walk into a VA and they will get seen no matter what era you served in, no matter what percentage of disability you have. That was enacted just last week. So I'm excited about that. That's one big win for us. The other thing that keeps me up at night is we haven't really unveiled where this VR is going to go yet, right? There's a lot of unknowns right now, but we have to always remain conscious on security for how we use this space. So that's one thing that's really at the top of my mind when it comes to how we implement and roll this out to our veterans, because there are a lot of young veterans and senior veterans that are not cautious enough when they use technology. So that's a big concern for me.
And I'm going to ditto that. I think two things: scalable and security. When we talk about scaling this, when you're in the United States, the level of security is extremely high. But when you're overseas, what people don't understand is that they build little cities, and the network infrastructure is tied to that little city that they built for the men and women over there serving. But the biggest issue is that they're not only are they fighting the war, but they're fighting people from cybersecurity. We have more cybersecurity attacks on our bases overseas than we do in the United States. But it's very important we are there. And that's my biggest concern is that us supplying and giving them these resources also means that we need to really up our game. And as we know, the metaverse right now is not the most secure space because it's growing and expanding. So that would be, I think, one of the apprehensive approaches that I think the pushback I think that the military would give. They would want them to have it, but it's not going to be scalable to the sense that every person would have it. It's just like now when they go talk, they talk in a what we call is it's a cave, and it's a secure cave when you want to do video calls with your family. So, and that keeps away anyone actually tapping in to that line and actually finding out where your family lives. So, a lot of people don't understand the security measures they go through to keep families safe. So, it's on a secure line, but if you're a person who works in that world, you can find out where Christine is if my husband is overseas. And that's how you prevent a lot of homeland attacks. But again, that's even timed and secured. But I'm really excited about the possibilities. The scalable thing that really concerns me is that everybody's going to want it and we're not going to be able to produce it as quickly as possible. Right? So I think the closer we get to doing the focus groups and really talking about the key things that we need to jump on top of first to address the mental and overseas would be our top priority, and then throwing in the fun. We definitely always want, our men to have fun and to address the issues overseas. But when you come to mental health, we got to deal with the people who are dealing with some traumatic issues. But that's a great question. The studio audience over here, Calvin, are they really they're right on top of it. So, does anyone else have any questions in our studio audience? Okay, we'll hold for that. So, Calvin, for you, just in your own personal space, if it was one thing that you have not done in the metaverse, what would you like to share?
That is a pretty good question. Um, there's so many great and positive things from meditation to meetup groups to parties and all that. I haven't found a job in Metaverse. I found a lot of friends of mine are actually working, and I encourage folks that are looking for something new to try out, look at ways to monetize this
Mhm.
vast system because there's plenty of opportunities and plenty of things to do.
So for you, it was one of the things, and thank you for sharing that. A lot of times it amazes me how people say they want to come back and create a superhero. Like you didn't even say that. Like you were like yoga, meditation. I think that's really great. Now, mind you, I do use meditation in the metaverse. And I like it because I'm able to sit right on the waterfront. It's very tranquil. And then I wanted a waterfall behind me. So I created that. And then I can just sit there. And I do it for 15 minutes every 4 hours just to get back to my norm and center myself. So it's like 15 minutes is on my calendar where I center myself. And that's one of the things that I think if people look at the metaverse from that perspective, it's not all about recreating yourself, being able to find those moments where you can just kind of pull everything together. Life is so busy and interactive that when they think of metaverse, they think, oh, I can create a Jessica Rabbit and go and meet, greet people and hang out at clubs. By the way, people, you can go out and go to cocktail hours in the metaverse. You can go to the clubbing, like Calvin says. Calvin, have you been to the club in the metaverse?
I've been to a lot of places in the metaverse.
I just want to, so you can go to Egypt. And so I think the more that people understand how to use the metaverse, and one of the easiest tools that's on the market now is called Meta. And Meta is so amazing. You can buy it in any store. They come with VR glasses. You put them on, and they come with these, I want to call gaming handles that you can use, and they can take you anywhere. And you program everything into your system. Are you looking for yours, Calvin?
Yes, I'm usually have it sitting right behind me.
Calvin's looking for his right now. I'm going to tell you guys that is one of the easiest way to kind of transition so that if you have not experienced it, oh, you have yours. Like, that is so awesome. Don't you love it? I totally love it. And I'm going to, so Calvin, please tell them though that they can't just do that. They have to be in a space where okay, so this is, I'm going to tell you one of the mishaps people do when they do this. You need space to do this. You can't just throw them on and start interacting in the metaverse. You will flip over your real furniture. Okay. So for you, are you sitting down when you're doing this? Are you like up doing it?
It depends on what I'm doing because the activities can be from boxing to kite to playing military games.
Hmm.
So a lot of times I'm standing. But so you have to create your own boundary because you will find yourself in a room that you didn't know or you would trip and fall. And then there's this new technology. I think it's by Tesla. It's a full body suit that you can put a full body suit on and get a true body immersive experience.
I just want to say they took that out of a movie and made it reality, which I truly enjoy. And by the way, I'm on the list to get one of those. I just said that.
They're
Okay.
expensive.
They are expensive. I'm on the list. You got to get on the list because you have to have one of these. So I think when we look at big picture about how we can acclimate and use this within the military, there's so many different ways. What do you think about the concept of being able use it to purchase gifts for your family? I know right now you guys are using your own online shop, which I think is really cool, where people at home, civilians at home, can purchase things for people overseas, and you guys package it up and send to them. But what if you could go into a virtual mall? Is that the next step, or are you guys going to keep it at online?
Well, the virtual malls are they're there. They're
They're
there.
big.
And then there's what's as in 2022, the biggest thing that was hot was the real estate.
Yes.
So I said, what the heck will I need to buy virtual real estate? And so I dug into it really, really deep, and I saw that the big box names were there,
Hmm.
like Nike.
Yes.
Nike buying real estate. And I said, why would I want? Because that's where the traffic is going to be.
Yeah.
So I eventually purchased a very small space there. It was really cheap, but a lot of folks were coming by. So it's fun and it's very excited. I don't know where this is all going to go, but I think once we get the right mix of flavor and applications, many folks are going to be in the virtual space.
They're going to be big in the virtual space. So before I go further in that route, I want to talk about before anyone realized that you guys were already kind of like in the metaverse when you guys launched your drone. And people didn't understand you guys were training people on games first before they became drone operators. So if you can share a little bit about that.
Yes, so the virtual reality space, dating back in the 80s, even before then, flight simulators, right?
Mhm.
I mean, we use flight simulators. It's virtual reality. It was kind of quirky and more 2D space, but the virtual reality flight and drone simulators now. By the way, I teach drone technology at a local college,
I love
and
it.
it has really propelled the whole experience on how you fly and how you learn drones. So this is we've like I said, we've only scratched the surface on how we're going to do this. Now in the military, I believe in the next 5, 10 years that a lot of training is going to be done in virtual reality spaces. It's way safer, it's very cost effective, and you could put 100 people into a scenario and your casualties and injuries is way safer, and you could do a lot more things with this technology.
I'm 100%. I think that was the concept. Um, I really like how Elon Musk is really making that transition to do a total immersive into the metaverse from home. And I think the transition is at some point, those suits would be great for training for the military because now you can actually get a lot more training hours in, but people can train with you and also after hours to make sure that they're ready in different areas. And I think it's great because all of that metadata goes back into a database, and then you can decide strategically based on data outputs who's ready to go, who's not, who needs more training versus, an individual person making that assessment. So I think that's the analytics behind that is going to really prove to be beneficial for the military. But now I'm going to transition to something that's really cool. This whole online dating and this metaverse is going to blow everybody out the water. And just to let you guys know, like, I'm in that space. So, like, we're now doing online speed dating where you create an avatar of yourself and you can meet people and then you can sign up. So you may be talking to someone who's in Japan. Now, the only thing that I really push is that you create an avatar closely related to your physical features. Like you can't be Jessica Rabbit and you're not really Jessica Rabbit. That's my only thing. Like I really need that to happen in speed dating. So what do you think about how we're using it in social media as it relates to meeting people virtually and not just online dating, but a metaverse online dating. What do you think about that?
Well, I love the idea of business dating, right? So a lot of small business folks create an avatar and they immerse themselves, and they're able to meet with someone in China to start sourcing things. So that aspect of it, I love it. The dating thing, I'm still nervous about it all, but the power of meeting someone, no matter what time of day it is,
Yeah.
right? So I'm in Central Standard Time, and I put my Oculus on at 2 o'clock in the morning. Someone in Singapore, which is about 12 hours ahead of us,
Mhm.
they're online, and we could talk business ideas. We could talk education, whatever field you want to talk. You want to talk military, someone online. Um, all the powerful meetup groups are just phenomenal. Again, the dating thing I'm a little uneasy about, but the power is unbelievable of who you can meet, how you can meet. You can find someone that is, have a lot of similar interests than you have. So it's very powerful.
It's extremely powerful too. And I want to hit on one of the things that you said right now because my team is global. We actually meet in the metaverse. We have an office that we meet in. And like you said, I'm up at 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock in the morning working with them. So this week, although I'm not in the office, I'm still able to meet with them in our metaverse office. And I think it's really great because we can storyboard ideas. When you're doing app development, I can actually see the projects that they're working on and we kind of talk through it, and it makes it great because they're on the other side of the world. But I love it. And then all my guys are in California, the same thing. Now that I'm in DC, I'll be hanging out a little bit with the guys here, on the East Coast. But the time difference and the way you're able to work. One of the pluses that I do think is going to be beneficial to us is how the small business owner can now make their product scalable. So if they really, and again, if you're watching this and you're not sure about how you can utilize the metaverse, you really need to look at how you can scale your business within these virtual malls. Calvin, you got a space. What are you going to do with that space in the virtual mall?
I invite my friends over to my space, and I decorate it with all the cool toys that would I could dream of. So I can have anything using Unity and other objects. I could create a world that is beyond something I would ever have in a reality. But I invite friends over. We sit and talk, and I travel around the metaverse, and I take tours with some of my friends of their spaces, and we share ideas. The that meta space gives you the power to dream very, very big, right? So I've got fancy cars and things like that, but I use my space to invite others over, and we'll sit and talk and have a cup of coffee and fly rockets from my
I love
balcony.
that. I'm waiting for my invite so I can come to your space. And now you've got me focused on maybe I need to grab some real estate myself. I didn't know it was going that fast. Do they have any beachfront properties?
Well, it's tougher to get. I purchased my downtown property next to H&G, and I think I only paid $20 for it. It was really cheap. It was
Okay.
above the storefront. Very nice.
I like it. Okay, well, I'm gonna have to get busy. I'm gonna need a couple places because I need, a full walk-in closet. I need a whole build out. So I don't know if that's gonna work. I did create one cute little living room space with like a kitchen
Mhm.
within our office so that we could sit down and just have like group talks and uh,
Sure.
they call fireside chats when we're kind of thinking through ideas. But the refrigerator is kind of like the people in the team, their responsibility to stock the refrigerator. And so that's the thing. I don't think people understand the metaverse is just a duplication of reality, but you can make it better. So, like to your point, you got new cars, they're really fancy. So, if you can't have these things in reality, it's a great time. How can I say? You can dream like a kid and you can create your own fantasy what your life could be like. So to me, reality sometimes gets a little busy. So I do like to go to the office when nobody's there and just sit there because outside it overlooks beautiful mountain landscape, and I always turn on jazz. I program it, I can turn on jazz just so I can sit there, and there's always a bottle of wine in my cabinet. Nobody knows. They probably do know where it is.
I need my invite.
You know what? I'm gonna invite you over to the office space because it's really nice. And one of the cool things too, I think it architectural design, like it really gives you I do AutoCAD. It really gives you a chance to look how you can build out your space, right? Using AutoCAD. That part I like because you can decorate it. You can put everything. You can put a wooden wall up or a waterfall wall within the house, and it makes it really amazing. It really allows you to dream big. So for you, did you buy a loft? It's like a loft that's over commercial property?
Yes.
Okay, so when you decided to design your loft, you were thinking of what? New York, DC? What were you thinking of? City?
Well, I wanted something to mimic like a space with all military vision boards and things like that. That's what I wanted because that's who I am. I serve a lot, but that's just one of my spaces. And in VR, you can have 100. In fact, a friend of mine's got 250 properties.
250 properties.
250 properties that she built in Unity herself. 250. And so she pretty much lives in virtual reality. And when I say lives in virtual reality, she's probably 20 hours a day in her VR headset.
20 hours a day?
20 hours a day in virtual reality.
I'm trying to
Yes.
figure out how I'm getting in 2 hours.
Yeah. I mean, the time goes by. So
20
if it's
hours?
something that if you really love this technology, you can really get immersed and lose track of time easily.
So that kind of brings me back to people who are in really different situations than everyone else, being able to recreate a space where they feel comfortable. And I think that's a very calming space for people to be in because it's very nurturing and supportive. So, one of the things that I like about the metaverse is that children with autism and adults with autism, a lot of people don't understand they're extremely intelligent. You just have to find their thing. And I found out that one of the kids, when I was teaching, that they would bring all the kids down to my classroom, and I used to watch this kid all the time. And I said, I bet you he would be great at music. He would be phenomenal. Come to find out, we didn't have the metaverse, but I had where I could put an electronic keyboard on his computer with his headset. This guy could play anything by ear. And his mom said, I didn't even know it. Now this guy, he plays with an orchestra. So it's like you could really, if you have a kid with a disability or you're an adult with a disability, it can really help you redefine. I know it's really good for people who have anxiety, that they need 15, 20 minutes in a virtual world to kind of calm them down and bring them back to reality. Like you said, the yoga, right? Or meditation. So it's really, you can use it on both sides and not just for that. Now, for collaborative workspaces, when it comes to the military, are you guys open to using the metaverse in that way?
Absolutely. We're doing it now. Some of our training is doing a lot of the battlefield exercises are done with virtual reality because you get to move your equipment, your people, and do all the things. And it's very inexpensive. So you can do rock drills and all the things that you would typically do that would take days and hours to do. So the tool is there and it allows you to do all that.
So when you guys are using that space as a collaborative workspace to do those things, everyone is in VR or is some people on the computer? How does that work? Because I know the military, there are some limitations with what you can use.
Well, there's a quite a bit of tools to do that. So from a project management or program management at a very high level, we've got something called op orders. It
Mhm.
lays out and defines what the mission is going to be, right? It's got all the critical things. A lot of that is defined using a computer. And once the leaders of every brigade or company that's involved, they'll plug it into a computer, and your troops now can put the headset on. They can follow the op order, whatever the exercise is, and it seems like a real battlefield scenario. It's unbelievable.
I like that. It's really going to really open up a lot of doors. I think, by the way, the commercials that they're doing, you guys did that immersion of two different worlds where the student is sitting in their room and then you immerse them in the military, how it's transitioning. I just want to say those commercials to me were eye opening. So,
Yeah.
whoever was on that campaign, that was a great example of the metaverse, the way you guys transitioned those two worlds and then brought the kid back and said, this is what I want to do. And the parent was like, okay, like they got it. And I think that was a great example. So if you had an opportunity in the space that you're in, what would you design that you think would transform how you guys respond, react, or manage?
Well, these tools are unbelievable. The one power that VR has that really brought our forces together. So right now we're training with conflicts that are going on right now. We're training with our allies in Europe, right? So we've got a state partnership in the Republic of Poland. So imagine that you've got this US force and we're integrating with these European soldiers, right? And we can do this from a base in Texas, that we can pull everyone together. And it seems like we're really at that specific place, which is very, very powerful. And we didn't have this 10 years ago.
Mhm.
I mean, this was done through PowerPoint, and you actually got together to train on exercises. And I was involved with our state partnership program with the Republic of Poland. And it took a lot of resources and time and money to get that to happen. But now we can use technology to make it all happen seamlessly.
I like when you said seamlessly. I don't think
Yes.
people understand how much time it takes, how much money it takes, the resources, may it be equipment and people, for you all to even prepare to do what it is that you do to protect the country. It's a lot that goes into it. Now, the other thing I know where you guys do a really great job is you guys work a lot with learning foreign languages. And you guys were way ahead of the bar because when you guys decide to send troops in other countries, you immerse them in that language for months. So, how are you guys going to then think about using the metaverse in order to continue that type of training? And how do you think that type of training could be used in our schools so that our students could be a little more bilingual? Right now, our American students are not as bilingual as I would like them to be.
Yep. So right now we do something called cultural immersion. And not only you get the language, you get the traditions that come along with it. And 5 years ago, we would actually build out a community,
Mhm.
and we would simulate what it would look like, what it would feel like, what it would be like to integrate yourself with their religion. And we work with the local colleges, like University of Illinois. They've got a community outreach program that worked with us to build this out. But now I can throw my Oculus on, and I've got a city built like I'm in Fallujah or in the Middle East. And now I'm sitting around with group leaders, and we go through some cultural norms. You can work on your greetings. All that's done right there in virtual reality space. It doesn't cost you much either.
That's a great example, I think, because the Spanish that I learned when I was in school, when I finally went to Mexico, was not the same Spanish. I think if we had the metaverse and I could actually speak their type of, and that's one of the things I got lost. And when I lived in Paris for 2 years, that was different. It was the same. But I think as we grow, the advancement that you guys are making in military can actually be transferred over to education. And that's a great example of how you guys stepped out there way ahead and you guys immersed all of the military to go overseas into that culture first, on top of the additional training that they go through to prepare them for that environment. So if you had to walk away and give one example to what you think or believe we should be doing as far as education and the military to better prepare people for one direction or the other, because college recruiters are out there and you always got the college recruiter and you got the military person sitting there. I think both are great options, but I think in tandem, they could both work together a little better so that a student could do 2 years at a college or university and then make a decision to go into the military. I think sometimes a 19-year-old may not have the right mindset to be prepared to do what needs to be done. So what do you think about using the metaverse and creating that environment where they're better prepared?
I'm glad you asked this question, Christian. Are you still there?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked this question. So, if I was a young person, or if I could get advice to anyone that's up and coming, um, there is a really big buzz around the internet these days. It's called artificial intelligence, right? So, if I'm a young person, I would really learn about artificial intelligence, how it works. It is as you and I are sitting here right now. Artificial intelligence and these different platforms are changing. It's a game changer. So let's take that scenario that I just told you about.
Hmm.
We're in Fallujah and
Hmm.
we're simulating a space where we're interacting with their locals. So let's say you don't know the language.
Hmm.
With artificial intelligence and these other tools, it will pretty much walk you through and tell you exactly what to say and what to do. And if you're faced with different scenarios, AI will be a crutch for you. So it is the buzz around town, and it's going to replace Google and Yahoo and all those other search engines. It is very, very powerful, and the traits are really good to is someone that don't want to perhaps maybe spend 4 years in college.
Hmm.
You want to take up a trade, especially things like welding, mechanics, and things like that. But I would, I'm just really, I love technology. So AI is going to be the next thing over the next 5 years, especially as we integrate robotics into
Hmm.
everything we do. So that would be my recommendation for anyone that's looking at future technologies is to really take a look at what's going on with AI.
I want to thank you for that. I just one of the things that I think when I look back at, and I'm very sure we're very close in age, we never thought this was going to happen. Like, it was just something when that first Tron movie came out, and we were like, we thought that was so cool. And now to see the advancements in technology, where you have our first phone that came out was that flip phone, right? And then we went to the BlackBerry that looked like a mini computer, and you really couldn't really read because the screen was so tiny. To now, you can watch movies on your phone. You can call your kid on a video call, and so all of those different transitions. And I laughed the other day when we were going past a payphone, and a person took the payphone and put a dummy in it of Superman and put it inside the payphone because that was like now artwork on the street. But it was very interesting to me to see how we've made that transition. So my last question for you is the advancements that we're making in metaverse, AI, robotics, and in technology overall. Do you think the movies are ahead of us, or we're starting to match up to the movies?
We're getting there. We're still a long way from what you can dream, but you can go in AI and dream of anything. We're not there yet, but we're getting the technology is moving very, very fast. And I tell our youth, especially the brown and black students, to not get left behind and
Mhm.
be divided by all this technology. Really get into it, touch it, feel it, do whatever you can to really stay up with these trends.
I
But
love that
we're
you
never
said
far
that.
behind.
It's one of my greatest passions. My nonprofit profit, which is Michigan Youth Stay, which is Michigan Youth STEM Tech Aeronautics. We work in the underserved communities in the rural areas, providing STEM tech training to them and experiences. Because I think for me growing up in the city of Detroit, it was odd that I wanted to be a chemist. It was odd that I wanted to be a pre med student. Most of my friends did not. No one in my family had pursued that. But for me, it was just my path of what I've chosen. So I've taken my passion for science and tech. And the thing is, I want to train as many students as possible to give them exposure to it. So one of our goals is that you can get your pre-certification to do coding, graphic design, network engineering, to cybersecurity, and you can come out of high school applying for a job. So that's really great because now those kids, they'll be ready to go into the military. They'll have some background in a career path that they want to go into. So this has been an extraordinary, exciting conversation. I'm telling you right now, Calvin, I'm following you on LinkedIn. I'm going to be like a little stalker on LinkedIn. And then I want to be invited to your whole condo. Okay. Because I'm in the meta. So I want to sit in your fabulous space. And by the way, I like a nice Chardonnay. So we're going to have some virtual wine and hang out and talk more about how we can bring all of these amazing things over to the military and really kind of focus on how we can help everyone that's going through different things. Our military is so important. And I want people to realize that the money that you invest in the military is not just weaponry, it's not all those different things. It's all inclusive to making sure they have medical support to this type of technology that's going to help rehabilitate them. So, Calvin, you have been outstanding. I wish you were here. This is like, I like the virtual. Of course, I'm in tech, but it'd be nice if you were here too. So, thank you so much for
Wish I
joining.
was there. I'm here with my Superman outfit on, saving Illinois.
It's that what you're doing? You know what? I'm in Michigan, so if you're in Illinois, you're not that far. I just have to go 4 hours to check you out. See,
Or we can meet halfway.
we can meet halfway. Well, Indiana's not that pleasant, but yeah, we can meet halfway. We can
That's
meet
great.
halfway. That's not
So,
that big of a
Christian,
deal.
I do have one ask for you and I guess the folks there. Be on the lookout for a sandbox environment with this tool that we talked about for our veterans and for their families. Um, we will, I will make sure I'll make sure you get a copy of the environment, and I would love for you to share it with your network.
Yeah,
And I hope that you and I talk within the next few days so we can collaborate on my mission.
I would love to. And I'm really looking forward, by the way, I know we can't talk about this because this is under development, your AI vehicles. We won't get into that. You see, I didn't even discuss that, even though you're probably saying, how does she know all these things? Christine reads a lot. I have nothing else better to do at night but to read. But that's something that I think you guys are doing a lot of extraordinary work in that space, and that is really going to prove to be beneficial for us as we continue to move forward with our military. Calvin, thank you so much for today. You have been absolutely outstanding. And
Thank you.
definitely, we're going to meet in our metaverse, and we're going to also meet in reality. But either way, I'm going to need that Chardonnay though to be there.
It's
That's all I have
yours.
to say. Okay, that's it. I'm open to that. Okay,
Yes.
so
So if you don't mind, please send me your information. I'll
we'll
make
do.
sure Eric that has my contact, and he'll make sure you get it.
You bet. Now, if there's anything you want to say to people before we close out,
No, again, I hope you guys would give some feedback on this technology and get it back to me. And I hope that you all will be part of our case study. But
all
thank
right.
you, everyone.
You're so welcome. And folks, as we close out this session today, be sure to understand that the metaverse is an opportunity for you to kind of look and indulge in different things, maybe buying, purchasing real estate, to creating collaborative work environments, to learning different languages, to experiencing different things in life. You can go to Egypt, you can go to Paris, you can go to Italy. Take an opportunity to get yourself immersed in this because, as Calvin said, this is the direction that we're going in, and you definitely don't want to be left behind. You want to make sure that you have a space and a voice at that table. So thank you for joining us today for session 2. And I look forward to the rest of the sessions for the rest of this week. Thank you so much, Calvin.
You guys have a great conference. Bye.
Thank you.